Okay, so let me again tell you guys, this particular batch we are starting from 31st of July. On this batch we will cover your F5 LTM module and Palo Alto Firewall. These classes will happen over the weekends, which is Saturday and Sunday, and timing is 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, these are timings. And after the session, we will also have a 1 hour of question and answer discussion, where you can ask n number of questions. And if you still have doubts, that time you can reach out to us over the weekdays between 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And if you will enroll for this particular course, we will also give you the lifetime interview support. And after every class, we will also give you the recording of your actual session and also your question and answer session. Okay, and these recording access you will get lifetime, guys. Okay, so these are our contact numbers. If you have any query, you can just contact us on this one. And this is not a like, this is a like detailed training. We will start from very basics and go till the advanced level, guys. Okay, so now let me just go with the course content. So first I will explain you what are the course content which I will cover into you with respect to your Palo Alto Firewall. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you, in this particular training, I will basically cover everything which you need for PCNSE exam. Okay, where, so in a day one class we will discuss what are the different platforms we are having, what are the SP3 architecture of Palo Alto. Okay, I will also tell you what is the flow logic. When Palo Alto receives a packet, how Palo Alto basically handle this particular packet. What are the different engines we are having in Palo Alto firewall? Through these engines, that particular packet go. All these things I will cover into your flow logic. And also today I will also cover these two topics. I'll give you the detailed as explanation on these two topics, guys. Okay, after that I'll just move for the initial configuration and initial access. Initial configuration, initial access requires like what are the default username on your Palo Alto, what is the default password, what is the default IP address, what are how many ways you are having accessing this Palo Alto box. If you got this particular box, like you will have a console access, you are having management access, how you can configure these particular management ports, how you can configure DNS, how you configure NTP. All these initial configuration I will cover into your this particular session. Then we will also see configuration management, means I will tell you how we can manage the configuration. What is your candidate config, what is the running configuration, how we can basically shape these configuration, how we can export the configuration, how we can import the configuration. All these kind of things we will basically see into your config management. After that, I'll also explain you the licensing part and software updates, means how you can license this device, how to register this device into the support portal, what are the things you need for registering this device. All these things we will basically cover into your licensing part. I'll tell you what kind of license we are having in Palo Alto. Let's suppose you need a wildfire feature, right? In that case, you need a wildfire subscription license. If you need a like IPS functionals, in that case, you need a threat prevention license. All these particular license details I will cover in details. Okay. And after that, we will also see how we can download the software updates from the Palo Alto update servers, update.paloaltonetworks.com. What are the sometimes if our device is not able to communicate with this Palo Alto update server, what are the troubleshooting steps which we require to do that. And I will also tell you how you can activate license via CLI, via graphical user interface. Same thing, how you can manage your software updates, your dynamic updates by using CLI and by using graphical user interface. When I will just complete these things, after it I will just move towards your account administration, where we will see how we can create a different accounts on the basis of privilege guy. Let's say we have L1 engineers, L2 engineers, L3 engineers. How we can control the access on our device, means in account administrator I will try to see what are the AAA properties, authentication, authorization, and accounting. How we can configure all these things for the users, guys. Then when I'll come when these things will complete. After it, I'll just move forward towards your interfaces related stuff, where we will see how we can configure the interface. What are the different deployment modes we are having into your interfaces? Like we will have a layer 2 deployment, layer 3 deployment, virtual wire, and tap mode deployment. How we can deploy the file? We will have a dedicated labs, guys, for these deployments. Okay, I will also tell you what are the use case, what are the real time use case for these deployments, how we can create security zones, what are the concept of zone on this particular firewall. All these things I will cover into your this particular place. And we will also see the concept of sub interfaces. Then then I move towards your DSCP, where we will see what is the meaning of DSCP client, DSCP server, and DSCP relay agent. How we can configure all of them in our in our firewall. We will see everything, guys. Then I will move towards your virtual routers. I'll tell you where we will cover what is virtual routers. If we are having, let's say we are having two virtual routers, VR1 and VR2, how we can basically enable the routing between them, means how we can implement the multi VR setup. What are the prerequisites for that? In which scenario we will go for this particular multi VR setup? Or if we have a single VR, in which scenarios we will use single VR? All these things I will cover into your virtual router session. Then I'll move towards your security policy. Okay. So the thing is, this security policies and net policy I will basically cover together actually. Where I will tell you what are the different nets we are having, how we can configure these particular nets. I'll tell you how we can write security policies, what is the meaning of like default intra-zone rules, inter-zone rules, these two default rules, how we can add the few extra rules, how all these things we will see into the security policies. Okay. Then we will see the policy administration. If you want to like do the administration on policies, how you can basically remove the bogus rules, and I'll tell you the steps, guys, how you can basically manage your policies things. All these things I will cover into your net and security policy session. After that, I'll just move forward. In net, basically I will tell you what is source net, what is destination net. So in net, we will also discuss what is U-turn net, what is destination net, how we can, if we are having destination net, then how we can write our security policy. What is the reason behind this pre-net, post pre-net zone, like pre-net IP and services, post-net zone, this concept. I will explain you this concept in details, guys. After I'll just move towards your application identification, where we'll see what is application identification. Then I will go into the app ID overview, what kind of application is supported by the Palo Alto firewall. Then I'll tell you what is the meaning of application groups and application filters, guys, how we can create a groups, how we can create a filters, and we will later on use these groups and filters into our security policy. In this app ID, I will also tell you the how the application identification happens. What is the meaning of known signature decoders, unknown signature decoders? What is the meaning of heuristic checks? All these things basically we will see into your application ID. I will also cover here how we can write the application override policies. If we have application override policy, how my firewall bypass this app ID engine. All these things we will basically see here. Now, after I'll just move towards your content identification. Content identification means this is the these like app ID and content ID. These are your actual layer 7 features, which basically protects our organization from different kind of threats, malware, viruses, anti-spywares. All these kind of protection basically we will get due to this content inspection. And in content inspection, your SP3 will apply here, guys, where we will see what is antivirus profile, what is anti-spyware profile, what is vulnerability profiles, what is URL filtering. In URL filtering, there are so many things which we will discuss. How we can block the URLs on the basis of categories, how we can create a custom categories, like custom block list and custom whitelist, how we can configure the EDL, guys, external dynamic list. Let's suppose our organization having some business relationship with one of the organization, maybe some organization who is basically continuously monitoring the bad, or we can say malicious domains and all, right? So these organizations sending the threats to you, these URL related threads or feeds they are sending to you. So what you can configure one server, and you can just fetch these particular block list and whitelist from this server. How we can implement these things, so we will see this thing as well. After, I'll just move towards file blocking, where we will see how we can control your uploading of your files, downloading of the files. All these things we will see into your file blocking. Then I will also explain you the what is wildfire, what is the operation of wildfire. So wildfire generally protects us from the real time attacks, guys. How we can configure it, all these things we will see into your wildfire, guys. Now after that, basically I'll show you what is the decryption. So generally, where we will see how we can implement the SSL decryption, because nowadays, all the website, even the malicious sites, they will basically they will host it on the HTTPS, right? Means whenever we will connect with any website from our system by using HTTPS, which means they will create one SSL tunnel, right? And whatever data they will exchange through this tunnel, it is in encrypted form. But if your firewall needs to see what are the actual content going through this particular tunnel, in that case, he needs to encrypt, he needs to decrypt it, he want to see the content, and he will again re-encrypt. All these things we will see into your SSL decryption. We will configure it, we will create our self-signed certificate and everything. Okay, which includes your certificate management. Then we will see outbound SSL decryption and inbound SSL decryption also. Let's suppose we are having some servers in our DMZ zone, and people from outside, they are trying to access these servers, right? If let's say these servers are hosted on HTTPS, now how we can basically implement this particular outbound SSL, or we can say SSL decryption, inbound SSL decryption. So whatever data is flowing, my firewall can able to see everything. So these things we will basically see. Then I'll move towards your user identification. In user identification, what I will basically first set up the relationship of my Palo Alto with the Active Directory server, with the Radius server, and I will also create one local user database in my firewall. So we will see how we can integrate all of them. Okay, how we can and also we will show you how we can basically use the inbuilt Palo Alto, or we can say inbuilt Pan OS user ID client, who can fetch the information from AD, and it will basically provides the user to IP mapping. All these things basically we will see here. Then we will see how we can create the authentication and authorization, these particular profiles and other stuffs, guys. How we can use these Radius users in, if we want to use them as a like login user, how we can configure it. All these things we will see into your user identification, guys. And also in user identification, I also used to generally basically show you the practical with regards to HR department, with regards to sales users. How, if HR wants to access any kind of job posting site, just allow them. But if sales people is trying to access any job posting site, just block this traffic. All these things we will basically also, I will show you all these things practically, guys. What are the user ID, why we need user ID, all these particular aspect I will cover here. After that, basically, I'll show you the IPsec site-to-site VPN, where we will see how we can configure the IPsec site-to-site VPN between two Palo Alto devices, between Palo Alto and Cisco ASA devices. How we can troubleshoot all these issues, guys. How we can troubleshoot these VPN related issues. If there is a phase one parameter mismatch, what are the command we will use here to basically see the details. All these kind of use cases I will cover into your IPsec site-to-site VPN. And one more thing I will use to explain here, I will also tell you the phase one and phase two exchange. What are the content they will have in message number one, and what is the content they have in message number two. So I will explain these 9 message exchange if we are using main mode in phase one. And I will also tell you if they are using aggressive mode, then what are the how they will exchange these 6 messages. So all these things I will cover in details, guys. In global protect, I'll show you how we can configure the global protect. After, I will also cover here SSL handshake, how SSL handshake work, what are the different protocols which required in SSL handshake, what is the alert protocol, what is what is the alert protocol, what is the record protocol. All these protocols I will explain into your global protect, and how these protocol works together for making your SSL SSL communication successful. All these things basically we will see here. And after that, I will also tell you how we can basically do the management related activities and reporting. If you want a report for top talkers and all, how you can do that. So all these things also I will basically explain you here. I will also go through with your dashboard. What are the things you require into dashboard? How you can customize your dashboard? How we can configure the basic logging, and how we can configure the advanced logging. Let's say you are having syslog server. So I'll install syslog server in my one of my test machine, and I will send these logs to my syslog server. Okay. I will also tell you the panorama here, how we can integrate Palo Alto Firewall with the panorama, and what is the what is the device group, what is the template, what is the template stack. I will tell you everything, how we can post these policies, what is the benefit of panorama if we have panorama in our organization. All these things I will cover into your panorama session. And we will also show you, I will also cover your high availability, where we will see the practically explanation, or we can say practical. We'll do the practical on active passive high availability and active high availability, where I will tell you the meaning of HA1 interface, HA2 interface, what is the meaning of HA3 interface if we are having HA1 backup, HA2 backup interfaces, what is the concept of session owner and session setup, what are the different algorithms. All these particular parameter we will basically see here. And also I'll tell you how we can enable the interface monitoring, how we can do the path monitoring. Okay. Apart from these topics, actually I will also, because these few topics are not mentioned here, so let me tell you, we will also have a 4 hours of troubleshooting class. Okay. On this T-suit class, I will basically explain you different daemons process, because in Palo Alto, it's PanOS is based out of Linux kernel, right? So in Linux, there are multiple daemon services running. So I'll tell you how you can troubleshoot these daemons. Let's suppose you are having issue with your IPsec site-to-site VPN. Then in that case, I'll tell you how you can troubleshoot your IKE manager daemon, because this particular process is responsible for your VPN stuff. Let's suppose you are not able to access your firewall by a web browser. Then I'll tell you how you can basically deal with your web server, or we can say management server daemon. If your commit is failing, how you can deal with your management server daemon. All these particular daemon services I will explain you in details, what are the meaning of them. And also in troubleshooting class, I'll tell you how we can do the packet capture, how we can capture the packet by using graphical user interface, how we can basically enable the packet capture by using the CLI. Okay. I will also tell you how we can troubleshoot the management related issues by using the TCP dump command. So all these things I will cover, and also I will cover what is the meaning of test command if you want to enable the debug for maybe for VPN traffic, for routing, how we can enable all these things. I will basically cover in details. What are the things you have to basically see in case of the troubleshooting. Okay. So all these things I will cover into your troubleshooting class, guys. And also I will also basically add one more class with regards to your NetFlow, where I will install one NetFlow software in my system, and I'll configure the NetFlow into my Palo Alto firewall. So Palo Alto basically sends that NetFlow data to this server, where we will see the top talkers, what are the top countries where our users is communicating. All these things basically I will cover into that one. Apart from this, guy, you will also get the videos with respect to your interviews. So we are also creating the videos with regards to your interviews. Okay. Where as per the questions which is asked in the interview, we will basically try to explain you by creating different diagrams in a video, guys. So these kind of sessions recording you will also get. And I will also tell you, I will also share few videos how you can deploy Palo Alto, let's suppose in AWS cloud, in GCP, in Google Cloud, in Azure Cloud. On that also you will get the videos, guys. So these kind of things I will basically cover into your classes, guys. And this is your these are the things which we will cover, and everything. So the thing is, this particular thing what I have mentioned here, everything I will show practically, guys. Don't worry. Okay. These are the practical oriented classes. Okay. It's not I will go with the theory. No, it's a practical oriented classes. So we will have a labs for almost all classes, guys. Okay. Now So these are the things with regards to your course content. Now let me explain you the lab topology. So before that, I will explain you guys what are the things I need for the lab. So we will help you in the lab setup in your systems, guys, because we don't have any kind of remote lab. We will don't provide remote lab solution because it's become very difficult for them in case of management and all. Okay, so we will help you in the lab in your system. For that, minimum RAM is 8 GB. You need a 8 GB of minimum RAM. Okay, and if you are having 12 GB or 16 GB, that will be great. But in 8 GB also you can able to do the Palo Alto lab. I will use two softwares for doing your labs. I will use VMware. On this VMware, what I will install the Palo Alto OVA file, and also I will install EVE-NG on this particular VMware workstation. So I will use EVE-NG and Palo Alto OVA file for showing almost all your labs. Okay, whatever Linux machine, because I do have a Linux machine as well. So let me just show you. So like this, where here if you see, I am having few Palo Alto machines, few Windows XP machine, and for Windows servers, I have a few Linux server. These servers I will put into your DMZ zone. I will share all these servers, guys. All the installed file you will get. You only need to install this Windows XP machine. That Palo Alto installation I will show you in your class, and also EVE-NG installation I will show you into the class. And we will also help you in your lab setup. If you have any issues with respect to lab setup, we will take a multiple sessions as well, guys, for single student as well. Okay. Now let me tell you which kind of lab topology I will use. So I will generally use this kind of topology where I am having my Palo Alto firewall. Okay. And Palo Alto firewall management interface have a connectivity with my BMNet 8 adapter. I'll tell you also how these adapters are created, how they are connected, everything. And I will use 192.168.137.0/24 subnet, where in my Palo Alto I'll configure here 150 IP address for management on management interface, so I can able to access this firewall from my system, guys. And also through this BMNet 8, it can also able to reach till the internet, guys. If he want to download any kind of updates and all, then he can communicate with the internet through this BMNet 8 port. The first interface of your Palo Alto firewall, I will just connect with my home Wi-Fi. I'll tell you how you can make this connection. Don't worry. Where I will use this IP address 192.161.250/24. This IP address I use into my Ethernet 1/1 interface, and I'll just put this interface into my outside zone, guys. Okay. I will also basically add Ethernet 1/2 interface. I'll connect with this particular switch. Behind this, I'll put two machine majorly. One is Linux machine, and another one is Windows machine. And I will use 10.1.1.250/24 subnet here in my inside network. Ethernet 1/3, I will put into DMZ zone, and I will use 10.2.2.250/24, where also I will put two Linux machine, where I will configure multiple services, like I'll configure HTTP service, configure SHS, I configure Telnet, all these services I will configure into these devices. Even though if you don't want to put Linux server, I will put a small router as well. On this router, I'll enable this HTTP, SSH, and Telnet, and we will try to access these services from the outside. For that, what kind of net we need into your firewall, what kind of security rules we need into firewall, all these things I will cover. So this is the lab topology, guys. So I will use same topology in EVE-NG, and also I will show you how we can create a similar kind of setup into your VMware by installing Palo Alto OVA image, by installing Windows XP machine, by installing these Linux servers, guys. We can create easily. I'll tell you how the connectivity is, everything, guys, with respect to your lab setup. So these are the thing. This is your lab which I am gonna use throughout the sessions, guys. This lab will change in case of when I will show you the practical with respect to your ECMP, policy based forwarding, and your dual ISP setup, because these particular labs also I'm having where I'll configure ECMP. What is ECMP? How we can configure it? What is the policy based forwarding? What if we are doing dual ISP setup? How we can configure multiple things? So this kind of lab I will also show you. So where also my topology may change, where I will put one or two routers here, and high availability my lab will change because I need a two firewalls that time. And also my lab change when I will show you the tap mode deployment, vwire deployment, and your L2 deployment. Otherwise my lab becomes similar for your remaining practicals, guys. Okay, now now let me just tell you what is the difference between next generation firewall and legacy firewall. Okay, so when we talked about the next generation firewall or legacy firewall, right? So I'll just type here legacy firewall, and this is my next generation firewall. Okay. So the thing is, the major difference between legacy firewall and next generation firewall is that legacy firewall can inspect the traffic on the basis of layer 3 and on the basis of layer 4. Layer 3 means source and destination IP address. Layer 4 means source port and destination port. Layer 3 also include your protocol numbers. So these are the things. If you want to control the traffic by using legacy firewall, then they can only able to control the traffic on the basis of source IPs, destination IP, protocol number, source port, destination port, right? Let's suppose you want a control at the application level, means you are having your firewall. This firewall have a connect with the internet. You have one PC in your network. Now if this PC wants to access any kind of application, let's say he want to access torrent, because the thing in case of torrent, his source IP address, or we can say torrent IP address and port number is not fixed. He will use the dynamic IP address and port numbers, right? So what is the issue here? Let's suppose if you are having legacy firewall here, maybe Cisco ASA, which is a legacy firewall. So the thing is, because source IP, because IP address and the port number is not fixed in case of torrent traffic, right? So maybe there is a lots of chances this PC can able to reach out to the torrent. Let's suppose you are having one ACL on your ASA which is blocking this traffic. But the thing, because IP address and port number is not fixed, so maybe your ACL will not work. Maybe on ACL we are blocking maybe 10.100.1.1.10 IP address and port number maybe 80 and 443, right? Because this is the one of the IP address, let's suppose, of torrent. But maybe after some time torrent has start using 10.100.1.1. Maybe 11. Maybe later on he will start using 200 or 1.1.1, right? Because IP address is not fixed. So in that case, your legacy firewall will not able to protect this traffic, guys. Not able to inspect it. In that case, you need some kind of firewall who can basically identify this particular traffic is for the torrent by looking into the layer 7 field, because torrent have some specific pattern in their layer 7 field, right? So the thing is, in that case, what you need a some kind of feature which is your application identification, right? You need that feature at your layer 7. So means by looking into that pattern, you my firewall able to identify which application traffic it belongs to, right? So this app ID feature, if you need, then you have to go for the next generation firewall. Let's suppose let's suppose you are having legacy firewall, and one of the and you have also basically connected with this torrent. Now you are trying to download some kind of file from torrent. Maybe let's suppose inside this file there is a one malware, or there is a one virus is there inside this file, right? It happens. Anyone can insert any kind of malware or virus into this torrent file. What will happen in that case? Because this firewall will not able to, because this virus and malware, they are at application layer, right? So your firewall is not able to detect them. But in that case, you need a some kind of feature like a virus protection, or you need a some feature who can protect you from the malware, which is your. So you need an antivirus feature, anti spyware feature, vulnerability protection feature, file policies. You need these kind of features, right? These kind of layer 7 functionalities, guys. And the thing is, these layer 7 functionalities is supported by the next generation firewall. So that is the main difference between your legacy firewall and next generation firewall. If I'll talk about the legacy firewall, then that firewall Cisco AS is a legacy firewall. Then we are having Juniper. Juniper is also legacy firewall. Okay, and we will have a like Sophos. Sophos is also a Juniper, is also like legacy firewall. Then we have firewall from HP, fire from Dell, SonicWall. All these firewall comes under your legacy. We can say these are the legacy firewalls. If I'll talk about the next generation firewall, then Palo Alto is your next generation firewall. Then we have Checkpoint, we have Cisco FTD-FMC, or we can say Cisco Firepower, and we have Fortinet. These are the main next generation firewall which basically support all your features. What are the features? So they have a feature like app ID, they have a feature like URL filtering, they have a feature like anti-spyware protection. Anti-spyware protection is there, antivirus protection is there, DNS protection is there. Okay, file protection is there, data protection is there. Data protection which includes your how you can, if somebody is trying to send some bank details, right? Because if you know HR peoples, they have a, like your social security numbers, your bank information. If they are trying to send this information to outside of the network, then how you can protect it? You can protect by using data protection feature. So they will also have a like zone protection feature. They will also have a DDoS protection feature. They will also have a like wildfire feature. Wildfire means this is also known as some kind of real time attack prevention kind of system or sandboxing kind of system. So if you need these kind of feature, in that case you have to go with the next generation firewall, and Palo Alto is the number one firewall, guys. Palo Alto is the number one firewall from 2008 till now, guys. It is leading the firewall industry. Okay, and this Palo Alto firewall is introduced in 2005. And why it becomes so popular, guys? Palo Alto becomes so popular because of its architecture, guys. Because it's when Palo Alto launched in 2005. First of all, Palo Alto have a very good architecture, which is SP3 architecture, and Palo Alto also have a very good features like Palo Alto is the first firewall who come with this app ID feature and content ID feature. These are the feature which is first time introduced into your Palo Alto firewall. And also there is one more feature which is user ID. These are the three features. Due to this three feature, your Palo Alto become so popular, and it just boomed in the market that time, because there are no such solution who can provide all these feature into one box, guys. We do have a Cisco environment. Okay, let's suppose we are having Cisco environment here. So let me just take a help of one of the picture, guys, for this one. Let me just go back. Let me just fetch one of the picture. Okay, so if you see this particular picture, guys, here we are having internet, we are having one firewall. This is a legacy firewall. Okay, this is a legacy firewall. Let's suppose this is a Cisco ASA firewall. Okay, now the thing, if you need a IPS functionality, in that case, what you are just putting one IPS box here, guys. You are just installing one IPS box. Let's say you want a antivirus and malware protection. In that case, you have to go with the AMP solution. In case of Cisco, let's say you need a URL filtering feature and proxy feature in your network. In that case, you have to go with the WSA kind of feature device. You have to put this iron port or Cisco WSA device here, right? So the thing is, and this DLP also you can achieve by using this Cisco M. So the thing is, if you need some next generation features, what you are doing, you are just putting the some extra devices, guys, in the line. So you are having that option, or either what you can do, on top of this ASA, you can install some UTM feature. Like you can install, we can say CX module on a top of ASA, which will give you the URL filtering feature. You can install IPS module, which can give you the IPS feature. You can install Firepower module as well, which can give you URL filtering next generation IPS functionality and M feature. So the thing, but whenever you will install these UTM feature on top of this ASA, they will basically slow down your performance of your device, guys. Why? Because let me just take help of this example, and also this guys particular example also for the multi-pass architecture, because Palo Alto support SPT, which is single pass software and parallel processing hardware. Means Palo Alto have a single pass architecture, and this architecture is for multi pass architecture. Means whenever this particular device receives any traffic, what it will do? Receive traffic here, so which means here it will process this packet against your networking engine, then it will basically do the match on the basis of protocol and port numbers, and it will also match for the firewall policies, right? When this match happens after that, so let's suppose this match took around 1 second. Now this particular traffic going into your IPS module, let's suppose, right? So in IPS module, what happens? It this traffic process again this networking engine, then it will again do the port based identification, then IPS decoder, IPS signature, and IPS policy. Let's say this will also take 1 second. After that, let's suppose you are using URL filtering feature. So see, this traffic now will go to your URL filtering device. In that case, first, here also your networking engine will work. Then that traffic go for your URL filtering feature. So it will also take, let's say, 1 second. Let's say you are also using antivirus protection. In that case, see, your traffic is again going for the antivirus policies. So if you see here, guys, this will also take 1 second. So total processing is 4 seconds, right, guys, in this particular flow. And also one more thing I want to tell you here. If you see, guys, here this thing, port based and protocol based identification in this particular engine, these engines are repeating every time, right? These are the engines which is repeating every time. And when these engines will repeat, there is unnecessary delay in the packet processing, and also basically when these engines will use for processing these packet, they will consume some CPU and RAM, guys, right? They will consume some CPU and RAM. But this is not a case of Palo Alto, guys. In Palo Alto, what happens? Your Palo Alto only go one time into networking engine, then it will go for firewall policies, then it will go for the URL filtering. It will not go into these two places, guys. Let me just show you one of the diagram for of the Palo Alto architecture, and where I will explain you the SP3 architecture. SP3 stand for single pass software and parallel processing hardware, guys. So let me just open this one. And before that, if you want to see, if you want to know more details with regards to your legacy firewall and next generation firewall, this is the example for that. Where where we are having one firewall which basically inspect the traffic on the basis of port numbers, right? If I take example Yahoo Messenger or BitTorrent, usually Yahoo Messenger runs on port number 5050 and BitTorrent runs on port number 6681. But let's suppose we have allowed the HTTP traffic from our firewall. So in that case, what they will do they will change their ports, guys, and they can start running on port 80. And your legacy firewall will not able to control the traffic, guys, because we have to allow this HTTP traffic, HTTPS traffic, DNS traffic into our from our firewall, because I also want to my actual user they can want to communicate with the internet. That's why we will have these allow rules, right? But so these are the few, we can say, application they can change their ports and all. They will run some kind of port scans and on the firewall, and they just try to use these kind of ports, guys. But if you are having Palo Alto firewall which is having the app ID enabled, so see, if let's say we have enabled the DNS runs on port number 53, like, so the thing, if your BitTorrent start running on port number 53, and it will send that data, and so when that data reaching the firewall, my firewall will inspect this traffic against the application database, and by looking into the pattern of this BitTorrent traffic, my firewall able to identify, oh, this traffic is belongs to the BitTorrent. So what? It will deny this traffic right away. So this kind of features we will get into your next generation features, next generation firewall. Okay. The one more example, if you see we are having traditional firewall, let's suppose now we are using IPS. IPS also can basically protect you from the application identification. Where, so here see BitTorrent is we are blocking at the IPS level, right? But let's suppose now someone is trying to send some kind of command and control kind of stuff. These kind of attacks, maybe he's trying to make. In that case, your IPS will not work. What you need a some kind of firewall, which is your Palo Alto firewall, who can basically block this traffic. Means who can who can just inspect this traffic against the threats, against the viruses, and it will basically block this traffic. So these kind of feature generally you need into your firewall, and Palo Alto firewall having all these features, guys. That's why also it become very popular. Now let me just come back to your SP3. I'll just go into this image and I'll explain you SP3 in details, guys, because in it also, if you are going for any interviews in Palo Alto, they will ask SP3 and they will ask packet flow. These are the two popular questions, guys. Okay, and if you know everything with regards to your SP3 and all, you are just, you will crack your half of the interview by explaining these things in details. Let me tell you. So now this is the diagram of this SP3. So the thing is, when Palo Alto receives a packet, what it will do, it will first send the send the packet through the networking engine, and your networking engine basically is responsible for doing your routing, your quality of service, your net, all these kind of things basically take care by your networking engine. So it will do the routing lookup. If you see a now routing lookup, quality of service, MAC lookup, ARP lookup, routing, route details, then flow control, all these things basically done by your networking engine. When your networking engine basically complete the process, that time after your packet will go to your app ID. Here your application related stuff happens, means application identification happens. Then it will packet send for the user identification, then packet go for the content identification, where your antivirus, anti spyware, all these things happen. And also in content ID, basically actual SP3 will apply, guys. Okay, I'll tell you how. And after that, that packet go for your policy checks, and your policy lookup will happen at this particular time, point of time. And if you see here, all these particular engines, they are basically working independently. They are basically processing the packet parallelly, guys. They will process the packet parallelly. Okay, why they will able to process this packet parallelly? Because they will have a dedicated processor. Because they will, this Palo Alto also have divided its hardware into two parts. One part is known as a control plane, and second part is known as a data plane. And in this data plane, if you see here, this data plane is further divided into three other planes. The first one is networking, second one is security, and third one is your content. So this is your networking processor, which is this one. Then we are having security processor, which is this one, and we are having signature match processor, which is content processor, guys. Okay, now these particular processor, whatever you will see, these network processor, security processor, or content processor, or signature match processor, they are having dedicated RAM and CPU, guys. They will have a dedicated RAM and CPU, which means they don't have any kind of resource level dependency. Let's suppose someone have launched into your routing table, someone have launched one attack, route flood attack has been launched into your routing table. In that case, your networking engine will choke, but your process your security engine and your content engine will not choke. They will still process the packet, because they don't have any kind of resource level dependency. Like if your, let's say your security processor become busy in processing some packets, right? In that case, it will not impact anything with the networking processor, because it is having dedicated resources, right? So they don't have these kind of resource level dependency. So that is also one of the benefit, guys. That is also due to this parallel processing due to this parallel processing hardware architecture, these particular single pass software thing is possible, guys. So means Palo Alto receiving the packet, it will do the networking, then it will send that packet for your user ID, then app ID, then content ID, then your policy engine. App ID basically happens on the, so application protocol decoding, application protocol detection and decryption, application signature and heuristic. Content ID is responsible for data filtering, URL filtering, real-time threat prevention, and policy engine is responsible for your security policies. And if I talk about the firewall, in firewall majorly we have a like net policies, we are having security policies, and we are having VPNs, right? These are the main features of an firewall, right? These are the main features which we will see into all these devices. And the thing is, for all these particular features, we will have a dedicated hardware into your Palo Alto firewall. That's why Palo Alto firewall throughput is very high, because it will not unnecessarily repeat the engines, guys. So that's why, due to this SP3 architecture, Palo Alto throughput is very high, and the thing is, processing time is also very less. Like, there is no processing delay. It will process the packet in a very fast way, guys. Okay. Now, one more benefit we will get, because they have a dedicated data plane and control plane. And your control plane is responsible for your management function. Like, if you want to do any kind of configuration, if you want to save any kind of configuration, that config management, logging management, and reporting, all these things basically take care by your management plane. Okay. Now, let's suppose let's suppose you are working on Cisco ASA firewall, and you are having some issue with your management interface. Maybe your management interface is not coming up, it is just flapping. What is the solution here? What you can do, either you have to restart your entire device, right? But the thing is, in case of Palo Alto, let's suppose you are having some issue with your data plane. In that case, just restart the data plane. You don't need to reboot the entire box actually. If you are having issue into your management plane, just restart that management plane. And in this management plane, there are different daemon processes running. Let's suppose you are not able to access your firewall by using the HTTP. Means web access is not working for this firewall. What you will do, you don't need to restart whole system. In that case, you just log in into your management plane and just restart the Nginx service, or restart the web server daemon into your Palo Alto firewall. If let's say you are not able to SSH on your device, what you will do? How you can troubleshoot? Just start the SSHD daemon, or kill that process and restart this particular daemon, and your SSL again start working. Let's say you are having issue with your IKE VPN, or your the VPN. In that case, what you can restart your IKE manager daemon, and it will resolve your VPN related issues, guys. If you are having any issue with respect to your firewall. So these kind of benefits you will get, guys, if due to this SP3 kind of architecture. Okay. And like, this is a single pass soft architecture. Like, Palo Alto send this packet for networking, then user, then app ID, then content ID, then policy engine. Maybe you will got confused little when I will explain the packet flow. So first, how the thing is, these are the different engines, guys, and these engines process the packet when they will receive it. Maybe on this packet first reach it to the some other engine, right? That order may change. Okay. But this is how the things works in a we can say in inside of your Palo Alto box. Okay. Let me also tell you one more diagram, guys. I'll just show you this particular diagram as well, where you will get the detailed, we can say detailed architecture of your firewall. So if you see here, this firewall having like control plane and data plane. Control plane, it's a dedicated control plane. It is having like multi-core CPU, and it is also having RAM. It is also having hard disk. And this is the data plane, where this is your signature match processor, which is responsible for your content identification, guys, just remember. And it is also having dedicated RAM, and also it is having CPUs, guys. Signature match processor. This is a multi-core security processor which is having dedicated CPUs, and these are multi-core CPUs, guys. And they are having dedicated RAM as well, because this security processor also responsible for your SSL decryption. In that case, somewhere you will also see some dedicated SSL engines or SSL processor as well in few boxes. Okay, this is the network processor responsible for your networking stuff, and it is also having like dedicated RAM and CPU, and they will have a communication like that. They will communicate like that through the electrical signals with each other, guys. Okay. Now let me also tell you one more architecture of Palo Alto 500 series device. So let me just open this particular. If you see this, but this is the actual architecture of your Palo Alto 500 series devices, guys, where you will have a control plane and you will also have a switch fabric, guys, dedicated switch fabric who can basically take care of your switching. Okay, then we are having like network processor, we are having security processor, we are having signature match processor, which performs the stream based uniform signature match. Means why Palo Alto basically said SP3? Because for the feature which is like URL filtering, antivirus, anti-spyware, data protection, vulnerability protection. So all these features, how my firewall protect these particular, if you, if traffic having any kind of threats, if traffic having any kind of virus and all, because my Palo Alto firewall just match against these particular database signatures on the basis of streamlined basis of, it will not go every time into these engines, it will just perform the stream based matching, stream based signature matching. That's why this is known as SP3 architecture, guys. This is known as SP3. Okay, so this is also one of the architecture as well for pa 500 series devices, guys. Now, so these are the things which I want to cover with respect to your SP3 architecture. Okay. Now let me just move towards your packet flow. So first I will give you the overview of your packet flow. When Palo Alto receives a packet, how it will basically handle this packet. Okay. So let me just open this diagram. So if you see here, these are the main three engines, right? So when your Palo Alto file receives a packet, what it will do, it will put this packet into the ingress state, means that packet is always received by your network processor. And after that, that particular traffic go for the firewall session setup or slow path. It may also go with the firewall fast path, and these things take care by your security processor. And after that this packet go for the app id and then content id, which is also take care by your signature match processor. And after that this packet go for the ingress state. So if you see here, these are the multiple states, guys. You can see when Palo Alto receives a packet, it will put that packet into the ingress state. After that, that packet go for the connection setup state, or we can say slow path. What are the things happen in slow path? I'll explain everything, guys. Okay. Now after the you now when this particular connection setup state has been completed, your packet go for your application identification, where app identification happens, and after that your packet go for the content inspection. When content inspection has been completed, then your packet go for the egress process. So this is your first thing, then second, then third, then fourth, then fifth. When it will use the first path, because if it's like first packet, then it will go for the connection setup state. And after that, when connection is maintained, it will always go through your first path, guys. Just remember. Okay, I'll be cover everything in detail. Don't worry. So this is the packet flow overview, guys. These are the multiple states we are having into your Palo Alto firewall when it will receives a packet, when it will process a packet, guys. Okay. Now let me just go to into another diagram where you will get the detailed overview. What are the things happens in at the ingress level, in ingress state. Okay. So when firewall receives the packet, what it will do? It will put into the ingress process, and what it will perform? It will perform the error check. It will do the look, it will basically try to extract your source IP address, destination IP address, source port, destination port, protocol numbers, and zone details. And after it will just get these source interface details and zone details. It will also send that packet through the VPN decrypt. Sometimes if your firewall receiving the fragmented packet, then it will do the IP reassembly. So these are the few things done at your ingress state, or we can say ingress interface. Now we are having firewall session setup state where your routing lookup happens, then your net policy evaluation happens, then your user identification happens, then your security policy lookup happens on the basis of source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, and protocol number. These are the five things it will use for doing the lookup into your policies, guys. Okay, and it will also take the help of ingress zone. These are the five, six things it will basically use when it will do the lookup on policies. It will not do the lookup on the policies here for the application and for content, guys. Okay. Now, in case of existing session, or when session is exist, and when your packet is complete this connection setup state, then only there is a one session has been created into your session table, right? So that time if session is there, it will perform the layer 2 to layer 4 processing, which means it will apply the net. So here it will only evaluate the net rule, but here it will just apply the net rule, means actual IP translation happens here. And if we are using SSL proxy, or if we have configured this as a decryption, then it will do the SSL, it will decrypt the packet, and after that that packet go for the application identification, where it will first match app override policies, then they will inspect the payload, then again they will do the lookup on security policy for the application. So let's suppose what we are having one rule in our security policy where we are blocking that, let's suppose we are blocking some HTTP traffic. So the thing is, at this particular point of time, my traffic will not block, because we are blocking the traffic on the basis of web browser. Because HTTP is basically considered by my firewall as a web browsing application, but my traffic will block at the application level, because this particular point of time my app evaluation is completed and my application will blocked here. After that packet go for the content ID, where your all your security profiles will be matched. Security profiles means there are the profiles for antivirus, for anti-spyware, for URL filtering, for data protection, for wildfire, for file policy. All they have a security profile. So all these security profile will apply, and your packet will inspect against these particular signature database, guys. And is this particular point of time your SP3 will apply. Okay. And after that, that packet, if packet is decrypted here, then now here re-encryption happens, and after that your packet go for the egress interface or the forwarding interface, where your quality of service is applied. If we have configured, if traffic related to this VPN, then VPN re-encryption happens, and it will again net applied. So don't confuse this net applied, guys. Why it will again do this net lookup here, net check? So generally they do the check for the source IP address equals to destination IP address. Why? Let's suppose we are then let's so this is the source IP address, and this is the destination IP address 20.1.1.10, right? This is source IP, this is destination IP. And when this net evaluation happens, and when this net translation happens here, let's suppose this particular destination IP address also change into the same source. Main source is this, and and also destination also becomes same. So we can do this kind of translation, right? This is destination. So the thing is, my file just try to check if source equals to destination, means if source equal to destination, in that case he will drop that packet. By using this net we can able to configure like this scenario. So that's why it will do the lookup one more time, guys, here. Okay. So this is the some detailed overview of your packet flow. Now let me just go with the in ingress check, which checks it performs when all these things, guys. Okay. So it's opening. Okay. If you see here, guys, when your Palo Alto firewall receives a packet, what it will do? It will just extract your layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4 information, and it will just by seeing this information, what it will do? It will just try to get the ingress interface, right? It will get the ingress interface details, and it will also get the ingress zone, because by looking into this interface it will get, oh, this interface is basically belongs to maybe outside zone or maybe inside zone or maybe DMZ, right? Get these zones details. And it will also do the error check, guys. What kind of error check? It will do the header error check. So if you see here in TCP header, right, we are having checksum value, right? In IP header, we are having checksum value. And we can say in frame as well, in layer 2 header, we are having some CRC checks. So now at this particular point of time, it will just do the errors in your headers, guys. If there is any errors in the header, what it will drop the packet. Sometime what happens, sometime we will use some options fields in these headers. Maybe we are in the IP header, maybe we are using some fields which is your strict route or record route, these kind of features. Sometimes these kind of things will not allow by the firewall. So in that case, it will check these particular devices for errors, and it will basically drop that packet. It will also basically ingress interface and join lookup, so it will perform these two lookups as well. And apart from this, sometime what we will receive the fragmented packet, guys. So what if my firewall receiving the fragmented packet, then it will also basically do the IP reassembly for this fragment packet. So these are the thing which is performed at your ingress level, and after that, that particular packet is moved for the other checks. Okay, other checks means it will go for the here where it will this particular device checks against the IPsec and SSL VPN. What? Because whenever this particular traffic is coming to our firewall, we will have a, like in case of IPsec, we are having IPsec assays, right? So now it will match these particular assays. If this traffic related to your IPsec VPN or SSL VPN, what it will do the decryption. And after decryption, what they will get the actual header, right? Because in IPsec and SSL, actual IP header has been hidden inside your ESP header, right? So they will again send this actual IP header through these ingress processing. Okay, now after that, when all these things happens, it will basically that packet send for the session matching. Means it will perform the lookup into your session table, guys. Okay, now in session table there are two conditions. If session is found, means if session is available for this flow, let's say this is not a first packet, right? Which means session is there. In that case, we'll do the first path. Let's say this is the first packet. Let's say this is the TCP SYN packet, which is the first packet. In that case, what it will that packet go for your connection setup state, or we can say session setup state for the first packet. In case of first packet, right? And generally, when when session matching happens, it will match the sessions by using these information. It will match the session on the source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, protocol number, and ingress zone. These are the 6 values it will use when it will do the lookup into the session table. And if you see this particular example, this snapshot, where it is having two flows, client to server and server to client, and where you will see source IP address, destination IP address, protocol number, source port, destination port, right? State is also active, and below, somewhere below, you will also see the other details, guys. Other details means you will get the egress interface, ingress interface, all these details. Okay, so these are the things which it will look into the connection setup state, guys. Okay, so see, existing session match happens. If yes, then fast path. If no, then slow path. So let me just go into your slow path. What are the things happens into your slow path? I'll go into your slow path here, guys. Okay. So when this packet reaches to your connection setup state or your slow path, guys, what happens here? First, this packet is matched against your zone protection profile. Zone protection profile we will use in our firewall just for protecting the like SYN flood attack, ICMP flood attack, UDP flood attack, anti-spoofing attack. All these kind of attacks we can protect by configuring the zone protection profile, guys. It will also check the TCP state check happen. Means generally in TCP three-way handshake, always the first packet is SYN packet, right? Let's suppose we are receiving SYN plus ACK. What it will do? In that case, my firewall will drop because it's not a actual TCP. Maybe it's some kind of attack, right? So these kind of attacks will take care by your zone protection profile. After your packet go for the forwarding lookup here. In forwarding lookup, what happens? Let's suppose we are using policy based forwarding. We are also having routing, right? So in that case, we are using policy based forwarding, which means it will just first take the lookup on policy based forwarding, and it will do the routing decision on the basis of this PBF policy. If we don't have PBF policy, then it will do the lookup on routing table, and by doing the lookup on routing table, it will just identify the egress interface and zone. Means by looking into the routing table, what it will just know, for this destination I have to go to from maybe Ethernet 1/2 interface, and this is the zone, maybe inside zone, if this traffic coming from outside, right? After that, now this traffic go for the net policies. In net policy, what here we are having two conditions. If this packet is related to source net, if source net policy is matched, in that case it will go for the user ID. If this traffic is related to destination net, what it will do? In case of destination net, because after the net translation for this new destination, maybe your destination will change, right? So it will again do the routing lookup, guys. And here it will only evaluate the net policy, just remember. It will not do the net translation here, it just evaluate the net policy. They will just see, oh, this particular net policy is matching, means I have to do the translation according to this net rule. After it will go for the user ID. If we are having user based policies, if there is any user to IP mapping, it will perform all the user identification. And after that, it will go for the security policy lookup, where application will consider as any, and it will do the lookup on the basis of source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, protocol number, and your ingress zone. It will just use these 6 tuples to basically do the lookup on your policy. If your in our policy, let's say we are having block rule, we are having deny rule, means we are just blocking this traffic. In that case, what will happen? In that case, my firewall will block the traffic, and it will just update the session table, guys. And it will update the session table with the discard state is discard. So means if few other packet is also coming for the same flow, that time my firewall will not send these packets to this connection setup state. It will do the lookup on the connection table, and it state is discard, so it will just right away block that packet at the session lookup, guys. It will not go through these particular zone protection profile policy, then zone forwarding, the routing lookup, then net policies. It will right away block there. Okay, now let's suppose my policy is along this topic, so it will do, now it will send this data towards your DOS policy. If we are having any DDoS policy, then it will go against the DDoS policy, and after it will just create the session table. It will just make the entry of this flow into the session table, and if my firewall, so my firewall just create a session on the basis of 6 tuples here, like source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, protocol, and ingress zone. These are the 5 things which is included into your session, guys. Okay, so these are the things which happens into your slow path or into your connection setup state. I am not explaining this thing. Now let me go to into, we have already discussed this slow path. Okay, now let me go to into first path, guys. Okay, so now after the session has been installed into the session table, now it will basically apply the net here, guys. See, apply net means here it will translate, do the actual net translation, and after it will send that packet for the SSL decryption if we have configured the SSL forward proxy. And now has application or content changed? And now it will send that packet for the application identification. And when application identification is completed, how it happens, I'll explain you. After that, it will send that packet for the content inspection, right? When content inspection has been completed, that packet again go for the SSL, this particular SSL engine, for the re-encryption of this traffic, and after that data go towards your egress interface. So these are the things happens in your first path, guys. And if session is already exist for a flow. In that case, always your data go into the first path, means subsequent request and reply packet go through the first path. They will not go into your connection setup state. Connection setup state is happen only one time, guys. Now let me just explain you how application identification happens. So the thing is, when this particular packet go to your app engine, application identification engine, first application override policy is matched. What is the meaning of app override? App override policy means we want to bypass the application identification for this flow. So let's suppose we are having some internal applications, right? And let's suppose there are few peoples who are testing, who are just testing these applications, right? In that case, we will basically go with this app override policy. So we will just bypass the application identification for these internal application, because we are using this app for some business purpose, guys. After that, let's suppose this app override policy is not matching. If match happens, then it will basically again do the lookup on security policy with the application, and it will take the actions. Let's suppose there is no app override policy, means it will now perform the pattern based application identification. So it will send this packet against these known signature database, then unknown signature database. It will also do the heuristics, and it will just try to identify the application. When application has been identified, it will just try to match the security rules one more time for this application, right? If our security policy, which is based, let's say if we are having security which is blocking this particular application, in that case that traffic will be denied at the application level, and it will update the session table with the discard state, guys. Okay. If now it will also send this packet for the application secret profiles for the content inspection, guys. Okay. And if like decryption has been applied, then they will again re-encrypt, and they will forward the data for the egress process. Now let me just tell you the egress process. So this is the egress process state, guys. On this state, if you see here, see, it will basically again perform the, it will again just try to forward the packet on for the route, switch, virtual wire, in case of whatever mode of interface we are having, right? L3 or a L2 mode or a vWire mode. Accordingly, it will just try to forward this packet through the, again generally it will do the L3 lookup, then it will do the L2 lookup, guys. L3 lookup includes your ARP lookup, your creation of the new IP header, right? Because when it receive, it will it will basically, it needs to create IP header if there is any changes required on the IP header. If quality of service is there, then it will apply the quality of service. If traffic related to VPN what, now in that case it needs to encapsulate all the traffic inside the ESP header, right? So all these things happens at the layer 3 level, guys. Then it will do the L2 level. At the L2 level, it will just try to encapsulate everything in the frame, guys. So it will just encapsulate all the IP all these inside header into the frames, and after that they will apply the net. So they will just check if same source equal to same destination, they will discard it. Otherwise, they will just forward this packet into the wires. So this is the, guys, actual, we can say, traffic flow on your Palo Alto firewall. This is how your Palo Alto firewall deals with the packet flow. Now, if you are aware about the packet flow on your Palo Alto firewall, you will able to troubleshoot your issues, because you know now at which point of time you have to basically, you have to inspect your, where you have to troubleshoot, at which point of time you have to troubleshoot your issues, guys. Okay. So these are the things which I want to cover inside this particular packet flow, guys. So I'm done with the session now. Now let me just give you the unmute permission, so you can unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have, guys.